All right, a lot of people have been asking me for my thoughts on current events. By a lot of people, I mean the figments of my imagination. But in Ukraine, okay, first topic one, the Ukraine. What's obviously going on there is that Russia wants the Ukraine to be a satellite state, more or less, controlled by Russian interests, if indirectly. And that's the real plus or minus. Now, on the news and Obama and stuff, he's saying it's about the legality and the constitutionality of it. But here's my understanding. One, I don't think they ratified their constitution. It's not fully finished. But even if it was, especially if it was, I don't think there was a constitutional provision for the way what's-his-face fell anyway, right? So it's already extra constitutional. And if Crimea wants to have a referendum, if they want to be part of the Soviet Union or they want to have their own state, and it's going to be controlled by Russia, well, that's a separate question from the justice, but it is the status quo. I mean, they were part of the Soviet Union. They've been controlled by the Soviet Union. It might be smoother if Crimea is allowed to separate from the rest of the Ukraine. Right? A lot of these states that the mega empires fall down into are still, historically separate places. As far as I'm concerned, Germany could have Bavaria and Austria break off if it was all done democratically. So we're talking about what the justice is, and you have to make an argument that the referendum was corrupt, because in terms of democracy, there are democratic principles which can be better and more truly democratic than unratified constitutions. So I don't think it's worth America getting into things over there. We obviously feel we have an interest to not let that whole the path through between that's Russia's on one side and Crimea's on the other. Theoretically, we don't want that all controlled by the Russians, but I don't think that's such a big deal when that's what we've been putting up with already for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. So that's that. Now, on this Malaysian flight that's disappeared, it's interesting to me that they say how far south it might have gone is over the Indian Ocean. I mean, how do they know that it didn't go to Africa? I mean, why wouldn't you be looking at Somalia or something that has a huge piracy industry? You obviously have to be looking at the people that know how to sell things as large as oil tankers on the black market. So, I'm pretty sure that the investigators, the actual, CIA and whatnot, would be looking at that and not want to mention. Pretty much you can assume anything you see on the news is red herrings. That's their policy with something like this. At least the criminal investigation part of it. The search for where it might have crashed, we're probably hearing about that, with a certain degree of accuracy. But anything having to do with this being a hijacking, for piracy, or, a drug lord wants a 747 to bring the cocaine into the U.S., or more likely the Vicodins or whatever, that you're not going to get the straight story about at all. So maybe they are looking in Africa. But I'm not super familiar with I'm using Somalia as an example because of the piracy over there. But, there's various piracy havens, and the powers that be, know well where they are. And you could probably use the internet and find out where the main ones are within a matter of minutes. So the specifics, I have no idea, but my speculation on the reasoning there. It seems like if it was a pilot's suicide, why wouldn't he go right into the ocean that he was in? But then again, suicidal people sometimes have, Who knows? Maybe he always wanted to fly over the Indian Ocean, so he's going to do it one last time. But piracy, I mean, you'd take it somewhere where you could use it or get rid of it, or you would get the people into these, again, like Somalia has. There's whole towns that live off of the piracy industry, and they have ways of safe housing kidnappees. So those are the current events. Also, I watched the season opener of Naked and Afraid. It was surprising. Okay, bye.